welcome. We are so excited to connect with you all. And joining me are a few of the thoughtbot team members that I'm excited to bring and lead the discussion today. So we'll start with just a brief introduction of who is thoughtbot, who are the thoughtbotters on the call, and then the majority of the time will be us responding to some prompts we came up with so you can hear from us. And then at the end of the session, we'll make sure we have some time for Q&A. But if at any time you want to post a question in the chat, we can answer it in real time because we definitely want this to be collaborative and just make sure you all get the most out of it. So we're thrilled to be here. A little bit about thoughtbot. We are a product agency that builds mobile and web applications, and we use a user-first design-led approach, which means we do a lot of research and validation upfront to make sure the product we build is the right one. And we're about 100 designers and developers, and I'm an associate director at thoughtbot, and I support our client accounts and our business development efforts. I'll hand it over to Dawn next to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn Delat. I am a managing director here at thoughtbot for our Ignite team. And we help founders and startups and entrepreneurs build, first of all, validate product ideas and build the first version of their new products. I also came to thoughtbot as a product designer and front-end developer and did that for a couple of years before moving into a management role. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to y'all today.
Elena, you want to say hi next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elena. I am a senior product designer and team lead at thoughtbot. I've been at thoughtbot for about 4.5 years, but I've been in tech for almost 15 years, close to that. I don't know how old I am anymore. But yeah, I started out in journalism and now I'm in tech. But it's been a great journey and I'm excited to talk with you all.
And last but not least.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Madeline Jimenez. I'm a designer on the Boost team. We're kind of responsible for taking existing products from our clients and kind of like elevating them further, whether it's adapting new modules or features or even doing a design revamp. So yeah, I have a past experience in front-end web development and UX UI design, traditional graphic design. I went to school for fine arts, but I kind of like forced my way into the industry and I kind of just have worn a lot of hats until I made it into this role. Very excited to chat with you guys.
Thanks so much. And I think one thing that is special about thoughtbot, I am biased though, is a lot of our designers help with development and a lot of our developers help with design. So I hope some of those experiences, especially of the group we've got here today, is interesting to you all. So we'll start with our first question. Tell us about your experience as a student and how did it shape what you do now? How about Dawn goes first? I know the first one's scary.
Okay, I can kick us off. Like Madeline, I actually studied fine art in college as well. And I was very interested in art when I was in high school. I remember when I had to do like my senior year, like job shadowing based on whatever major I was going to be choosing. I chose to shadow my former elementary art school teacher. And they let me know that they, received a bachelor's of science in art education. And I was like, what do you mean? You didn't just, go to school to become an artist and then ended up doing this. So it really opened my eyes to how, people navigate through this system and, can study all kinds of different things and then end up, in places that they maybe didn't expect. So yeah, I was super into art in high school, went into it in college, started to sort of veer into more like art history and art media management and explore different ways that I could, have a career that wasn't just like making art all day, every day. Ended up in like retail management and supply chain management for a while and decided to go to a coding boot camp in my late 20s. And I studied UI design and front-end development, and that's how I landed a career in tech. So yeah, it was quite a journey, and definitely not one that was linear, that, was like one step led me to, the exact next thing that I was thinking that I would want to do. But I ended up in a great place. And so I guess, yeah, that's my very high level experience. And one of the, I think, big takeaways from that is, having a growth mindset and thinking about how you can learn and sort of, be a student in whatever phase of life you're in, is really like the most important skill set or sort of perspective that you can have, because like you can change paths whenever you want. I think that like everybody on this call has the same kind of experience. None of it was very linear. So yeah, I'll let somebody else add some light to that.
Yeah, sure, I'll go. So very similar to Dawn. I went to school for fine arts. But the way that my experience there shaped the career that I have now is I chose a very practical kind of vague field. It was called communication arts. And I kind of did that very deliberately because from that, it kind of like got my foot in the door for a lot of other roles that were kind of related to tech. But from that experience, I learned graphic design, but also like traditional art, like figure drawing and like oil painting and things like that. So I married my love of like fine arts with, learning, like that was the first time I learned tech skills, and then worked as a graphic designer, did internships as in graphic design from that. And then from there, I kind of got like bored and I started learning like development. I went to a boot camp as well. So I couldn't decide which one I loved more. And that's where I am now in consulting and doing both things, design and code. So yeah, I chose a practical field.
Elena, anything you want to share before we go on?
No, it's pretty similar. Like I also majored in communication and journalism, fell into code along the way. It was a lot of situations. I didn't go to a boot camp, but I was like lucky to have opportunities in a lot of my jobs along the way where I was doing coding along the way, and that sort of built up into a career where I was doing design and front end development as well. But it was just stumbling into it along the way, mostly because there wasn't like a really clear career path for that when I was going to school. It was mostly like, if you wanted to go into design, it was print design or editorial design. And so that's where I sort of started out. And as like the web world grew, those opportunities popped up every so often. And so that's where my career landed.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. I'll take us to our next one. What was your major in college?
I can start. I mean, I just said no, it's journalism. But I also really I think, we've talked about having, non-computer science, I guess like quote unquote traditional background. I hate that term traditional background because I think like most developers and designers I know do not have a CS degree or like haven't even really used it. And so it was something where I just sort of got experience along the way, whether it was through like a project that I was on at work or just my role shifting into something that was more code focused. But I started out with journalism, but I think those skills that I learned are really transferable into a technology career, mostly because yes, your workload is very much technical, but there's a huge communication aspect to it. And so knowing how to write well and communicate well is really a skill that's well received and also gives you an edge when it comes to both application and sort of just moving up on your career ladder.
That's great. Dawn and Madeline, anything else to add? I think you might have both said your majors in your first.
Yeah, very similar. So in fine arts, I studied communication arts. So just like she said, transferable skills led to this.
Yep, +1. I think as much as you can practice like critical problem solving, communication, managing your time, managing deadlines, like all of those things are going to be so helpful to you in writing code and building software, because in almost every case you're having to do that with a team, if not of other developers, with other product people. So yeah, I think there's so many paths you can go down that don't necessarily have to be highly technical in college.
That's a great point. What's your favorite thing about working in technology?
My favorite thing is the flexibility. I've been lucky enough to be able to work remotely for the past 4 years, like even before the pandemic. And that was something I chose deliberately. There's so much flexibility. There's so everything is just so convenient and compact. And it's just so lucrative being in the tech field, and it offers such a great work-life balance, being able to have kind of less resources as everything is digital. You're communicating online, and you're getting everything done online. And I just feel like the work process is just more fluid. And since I've switched to this field, it's just been very flexible, still doing what I love and working very hard, but not having to sacrifice, any comfort, and to just do what I love. And that's the best way I can say it.
Yeah, to spring off what you were saying, Madeline, with the variety, I think what I like, so I want to speak specifically about like the web development part of technology and that industry that we're all in. I think with the variety also comes a lower barrier to entry. I think we talked about before, like coming from, having degrees and things that aren't technology related, or at least traditionally technology related. You don't necessarily have to, I think most jobs, at least in web development, you don't have to have a degree. There's definitely some that require it, but I'd say the majority in web development do not. You just have to be good at what you do, or at least be willing to learn, which I think is great. I think that there's a lot of opportunities, going into a boot camp or taking courses that can set you on a path to a career that is flexible, like Madeline said, and also lucrative. There's I think technology and web development in general are sort of known for having good salaries and good benefits, and so it's a really great path to go down if you're interested in that area. But I really like that it's less about where you went to school and more about what skills you have and what you're learning and what you're excited about.
Love that. Do you need lots of experience in STEM prior to college if you want to major in it? What do we think?
No, I was in art and music classes. People call me up today saying, "Wow, Madeline, I never thought that you'd be in development." So it's kind of funny.
I think to me, it's so much more important to this. This is what I imagine I will tell my kids, even though they're a long way away, not that long from this conversation. But I think it's so much more important to focus on what makes you excited and what makes you what's something that you're really excited about, happy about, passionate about, exploring and experimenting with, with what you're studying and learning in school. That's going to be, I think, the most important driver for continued education through college and beyond college. Kind of like I was saying before, like if you have a growth mindset and your perspective is that I can learn any new hard skills, because that's just a matter of like studying and practicing and picking up a new skill, right? If you have the right mindset and you're excited about what you're learning, then I think that's going to be like a more important driver. And you don't necessarily need to make sure you're taking like every STEM class, in your junior and senior years to prepare you. Obviously, like, good preparation is stuff that y'all are probably used to doing because you've been students for a long time, and that's just like a part of being a good student. But it doesn't necessarily mean your whole life has to be very STEM focused in order for you to succeed in a STEM field in college, or not even necessarily in a STEM field in college, to then go on and be a part of the technology industry.
Yeah, one of the things that I hear a lot from people who want to break into at least like web development is like, well, I'm not very good at math. And then, well, so first off, like there are plenty of people who are great at math who are like, who might not think that they are. But I also want to say, you like, no one I know, I'm not good at math. Like no one is good at math unless and not to say no one there, I just wouldn't say it's a common thing to like have to do math. And so I think it's like, it's important to think critically about the variety that there is in STEM. And it's not about like being amazing, excellent in science. And it's not about being excellent, amazing in math. Like if you're interested in problem solving or doing some like visual stuff, then like look into web development design. That's like a really great path to go down. You don't have to be like an expert in all of these different areas, or good in all of these different areas to really excel and succeed, and be someone who is driving a career path like along this way. So it's just something to think about. And it's also like, Dawn mentioned, like, you might be thinking about looking into some areas when you are in college, or if you're, or whatever you're doing after high school, whether that's college or something else. But the great thing about web development and design is that you can break into it at any age. If you want to like look into that in your later on in your life, that's also fine. Because of that barrier to entry, that lower barrier to entry of like go into a boot camp, take a class somewhere, get some mentoring, have job opportunities that allow you to do that. I think that there's like a variety of pathways to break into it.
Absolutely, that's great. What or who inspired you to break into technology? Now that we know it was quite the journey to get there, what was that original inspiration?
As I was working as kind of like a photographer and like print designer for a small marketing team, I started doing a little bit of like UX UI design, and I worked alongside a developer that would be like, look, Madeline, like I created what you designed, and it would be mobile responsive and it would be interactive, and it just looked like magic. And I wanted to learn how to do that myself. I wanted to be able to design it and code it. And then from that, I got even more into like UX UI design and broke a little bit more away from traditional graphic design. And I just like started heavily pursuing both because I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do both. So that was at the beginning of my career, and that definitely propelled me towards, what I'm doing now, for sure.
I had a bunch of friends, long-time friends, and we all got liberal arts degrees. And then a couple of people taught themselves. One in particular, one of my good friends, he taught himself Ruby on Rails. Just by himself. He would wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and like, he taught himself how to program and build and ship an app. And he got a job in the field, and we all kind of looked at him and went like, oh my God, you can do that? I'm gonna do that. So he single-handedly like turned like at least 3 or 4 of us into designers and developers. But yeah, just seeing that it was something that you know, could teach yourself, like a totally new skill set you could teach yourself, with some hard work and dedication, like within a really reasonable amount of time. And then have a totally new like career landscape and plethora of opportunities. I mean, that was a huge inspiration because I wasn't exactly doing, something that I loved from a career perspective. So yeah.
And a lot of doors. Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, same, like pretty similar stuff of I met people along the way that did this, that broke into this without having like, a traditional technology background, and they just did it. And I was like, oh my God, that's allowed? You can do that? But I was also lucky and like privileged in a way to be in a lot of job opportunities that allowed me to sort of hone in some of those skills as well. One of my best jobs that I had was at the Boston Globe, which is a newspaper right in Boston. And I started off as a product designer there, and I moved into a space where they had just started out doing a lot of sort of like web development of stories, like interactive stories. And I got the opportunity to be on that team. And I wasn't really that adept at coding. Like I knew like some of the stuff, but I over like the course of like many years there, I really got to hone in my skills just because they gave me those opportunities. And so being inspired by the people that were around me that were doing cool stuff, that worked at other newspapers and were putting out like amazing stories, like really important stories, and like presenting it in a really cool way was always really inspiring to me. And the fact that they got to like work on all this creative work and problem solve in different ways, I think was really very inspiring, and also like always wanted to push me into working on it more. And I also saw like a lot of developers that were working on that who were women in technology, in newspapers, doing all this amazing stuff. And that was always really inspiring.
Very cool. What tools or resources helped you the most in your journey?
When I had first started on this journey and getting into this career path, I joined a lot of development meetups, and I networked a lot. So I would go to like Coffee and Code, and a lot of people from really high-end jobs would go there like after work, and I'd learn all about the industry. And I got to network and show them my design work. So, I'd even get some freelance opportunities from that. And then I'd meet other people that went to boot camps. And that's actually what taught me that's where I learned that a boot camp could give you a certificate that could be used in lieu of a computer science degree. And, like it really all started with networking and going out to meetups and finding other like-minded people that were already doing, what we're doing now. So that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I would say networking too. I think it's a bit different now, and like in these remote times, as we all say. But there are a lot of like virtual networking events, and I think there are still some in-person ones if you look within your community, and those are always really great. But yeah, I think like networking, also like finding out if like some companies do office hours, which are really great, and so you can kind of get some one-on-one time with some people that are in the industry. That's always really helpful. Going to conferences is really helpful because again, you get to meet people, but you also get to kind of learn about like new technologies or like ways that people are doing things. It's like the ultimate show and tell for a lot of reasons. And so it's really a great way to kind of see like what's going on out there. It's also a great way to see like what businesses are out there and what people are doing. Because you don't always get like a view into the design teams within a business and how they're working and how they're talking about design and development. And so going to conferences is a really great way to do that. A lot of times they can be free, and you just have to sort of like look and see what's around you. But yeah, that, and just like, like looking at online courses and seeing what Twitter is a great resource. who knows what's happening with Twitter in the future with Elon Musk, but we don't have to talk about that. But I think that's also like been a great resource as far as like community stuff and figuring out like what people are doing and learning about new technologies and, just discussing things.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that certainly +1 to all of that. I think I found that communities, especially like in the conference sort of circuit, like they're so welcoming to new people in tech. Like they understand that drive to like learn new technologies and languages and break into the industry, and so they're really like happy to share resources and like introduce you to people that would be good connections and things. And I think that's probably, I didn't have this experience, but I imagine it's a bit different than what you might experience at college, which is much more sort of like individual, like student focused. And so as much as you can like have a community outside of your more traditional like learning environment, I think you'll find that you will get a lot of different resources and a lot of people who are really willing to share and sort of like be with you on the journey to like the journey through lots of up and downs and failures and like, experimentation and, learning how to break into the industry.
And this is my favorite question. I actually asked all of thoughtbot this question this morning, but we'll hear what from our group. If you could go back and give yourself advice, what would it be?
I'd say don't be hard on yourself, be patient, don't give in to the imposter syndrome, think transferable skills. These are all the things that kind of like propelled me forward. And I think that there was even a time in my career where I held myself back because I was fearful of all those things and I wasn't in the right mindset. And then it wasn't until, I did start networking and learning that I had more control than I thought. I stopped holding myself back and I opened myself up to so many different possibilities and experiences. So yeah, just make it what you want it to be and don't give in to the imposter syndrome. You keep learning and growing and you'll cultivate the career that you want. And anything is possible. I feel that this is a unicorn job. So
I like that.
Yeah, I +1, all of those things. And Kelly, if you want to like go through some of the list of the things that people responded to in our work Slack, I think that would be great because I think people gave like really amazing answers. One of the answers that I really like that I also appreciate is like asking the question, like ask all the questions as you're working, like and moving along. Like no question is silly. No question is like you should just ask it. If you're curious, if you want to know more, just ask it. Like don't worry about the reaction there. Just move forward and ask the question because I think people are more generous with their knowledge than you might think. And getting yourself unstuck or unblocked is always helpful. And so I always struggle with that about asking questions and making sure that I'm like continuing to have that learner mindset of like, I don't have to figure out everything on my own. There are people here to help me. And so ask questions along the way is what I would say.
I was just reviewing some of the answers that you got earlier and I'm about to cry. They're so good.
Yeah, I think that it is I remember that feeling like I needed to have it all figured out going into college. And then in college, you need to have it all figured out going into the real world. And, spoiler alert, none of us have it figured out and we're out here in the real world. So just try to enjoy yourself and don't take it too seriously. Just go for what you want and try to have some fun while you get there. Now I feel like a chicken noodle for soup for the soul book, but I think it's true. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I just want to like reply to some of bring up some of the replies that we had in there of like, I think you know, this is like a woman in tech event. And so like thinking about like, I think like technology and STEM in general is very much dominated by men, particularly white men. And so you have to work a lot harder. Like if you are any minority or cross section of minorities, like you have to like really work a lot harder for that. And so just to have like building yourself up and also finding mentors that have like similar experiences to you, I think is really important to moving forward in the world. And just being able to sort of like have someone validate your feelings and also say like, you know, like, oh yeah, what this person says, like totally ignorant, like ignore them, which just happens a lot. And so I think finding people within your community that have your experiences, I think is important in any job, but especially in a job that is dominated by men.
Absolutely. So I think next up, we'll be sharing a few resources. Upcase is our developer resource center that has a lot of goodies in it. So we'll share with you to have access to. Purpose Built is actually something we built that helps startups and founders, but it has a lot of content on product design, development, and strategy, which we thought folks might find useful. Our playbook on our website documents how we do everything, design, development, product strategy in a lot more detail if you're curious to see how we work on our mobile and web projects. We also have a product design sprint guide that shows the exercises we facilitate in figuring out the strategy for a new product or the strategy for a new feature. It's a lot of collaborative exercises that bring in team members from all different departments, definitely designers and developers working together. So we'll share that as well. And then we also have a podcast that is a developer podcast. And one of the hosts, her name is Steph, and she is a rock star. And I think you will love hearing from her. So I'll share that as well if podcasts are more your thing. And we are on all the social media channels. So please connect with us, follow us on LinkedIn or our blog. And we are always looking to share resources of things we're learning, things we're excited about, and also putting on more events to kind of promote those learnings and connect with others. So we talked about it a few times that having a network and a community is important. So we're really excited you're part of ours, and we're going to continue to kind of support you and grow. Any other questions before we wrap it up for today?
I will say, as Kelly mentioned, like we are like more than happy, so excited. If you want to like email, I think our email is in the invite here. If you want to like talk to us like one-on-one just about design, web development, being women in STEM, just breaking out into the career path, or just like what happens after high school in general, like more than happy to chat about anything. So please get in touch with us, because we love to chat and we love to hang out and talk about stuff in life. So please feel free to email us.
Definitely. Yep. We'd love to hear from you, and love to hear how your journey's going too. Like, did any of this help? I hope so. See what happens next. Well, thank you very much for inviting us today to chat with you all and helping us make this event possible. We were thrilled to be invited, and I hope you all found it valuable.
Thank you so much again. This was wonderful. We'll definitely be reaching out in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you all have a great day.
You.
Oh, I did have a question. Where are these resources available?
Most of them are on our website, but I will send an email that has links to everything so you can find it easy.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.